RBIs, takes away probably 2 runs there defensively. That's 5 runs he's involved in that chapter.
Olsen skies one high and deep to right field toward the corner of Dell. Onto the track near the wall, leaps up and got it. Makes the catch for out number 3. Olsen. On he goes. Hit out towards center field. That's smoke. That is going to be into the bushes. A 2-run home run for McCutcheon. And the Phillies take a 2-0 lead.
Here's another 3-2 going again as Soto hits one high in the air, right center field. Brinson near the wall, leaps, and he makes the catch! Lewis Brinson makes an unbelievable catch over the wall in center field.
All right. Well, welcome into this edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball Show. Finally, after we had some issues there that was created by yours truly, but we've got through that. Well, welcome in. We have a full house today. And, of course, I got my co-host, Vince. Vince, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. And we have Howard.
Howdy.
Howard?
Good. How are you?
I just need to point out that Howard and Vince are both new members of my fantasy football league that I'm in. So we got that. And then extra special guests, we got the baseball master himself, Belly Up's own Toronto Blue Jays beat writer, Mr. Graham Wallace. Graham, thanks for joining us.
Always. Thanks for having me, Kevin. Great to be with you guys. Going to start having to work on a drum roll for that introduction. That's very kind of you.
Well,
very kind words there.
You earned it. And if you're not reading Graham, I just want to put it out there. You need to start because he's putting out some outstanding articles. So
thank you, sir.
All right. So let's dive right into the world of baseball. And the first subject I want to talk about is the Dodgers-Padres game last week, which was a 16-inning affair that the Dodgers won 5-3. And so, Graham, we'll start with you. Is that an instant classic or a snooze fest?
I really have a hard time calling a regular season baseball game a classic. I feel like postseason needs to almost be a prerequisite in order to call it a classic. I think it's a very memorable non-playoff game, regular season game that we might look back and think about. But if you think about the way the Padres have been tailing off and how disappointing their play has been over the last, really since the All-Star break, we might not remember this one that much at all because they're looking on the outside in as far as the playoffs are concerned. For me, I look back to some of their games that they played in April. You had pitchers playing in the outfield, things like that. I know this was a dandy of a game, Pollock with that home run in the 16th inning. I'm a little bit hesitant to call it a classic, but it was a lot of fun. And if you stayed up to watch it, then you were rewarded with some really exciting moments, that's for sure.
Well, if you stayed up to watch it, because that was a 5-hour, 56-minute game, I believe it was. And
in the West Coast.
You guys are on the East Coast. You're not going to convince me that you stayed up and watched that whole game. But
no
Vince,
way.
what do you think?
I agree. I think, the only exception to non-playoff classics, I think like the Field of Dreams game this year might be, could be a special game, something unique, things like that. But, it's funny. The Dodgers-Padres rivalry has gotten a lot of hype this year, but it's not something that most people considered one of the great rivalries outside of maybe Padres fans. So I'm not sure that excites me a ton on there. It's neat, but on my opinion, I want the game to last maybe 12 innings at the longest, and then I'm out. So so that's kind of where and I'm an old man, so that's where I'm at with it.
So Howard, what do you think?
No, I agree. I don't think it's a classic. I definitely think it was a fun game to watch if you stayed up, but when I think classic, I'm thinking, something like the 98 Yankees, when they were down 3-0 and, against the Padres and they came back and won a game, something like that. A 16-inning game, I don't think it was because it's added because now, it's, if you didn't have the man on second, I think maybe it would be a classic because it's so long. But since you already had that, man on second. It's like, oh, you scored. Oh, now the other team scored. Now just there's a lot more room for back and forth.
Well, Howard, that you mentioned that the second base, they start with the second base. Does this game prove just how big of a folly this whole thing is, Graham?
I mean, I don't love the rule of the second, starting a runner on second base. I think they could have maybe made some changes to it, like say the 10th inning, regular baseball. And then if it gets to 11th, maybe start with someone on first base. And then 12th inning, start with the runner on second base. I think something of a compromise might be a better situation. No one wants to watch a baseball game for, 7 hours or, 5 hours even. But I think it takes away some of the real traditional parts of the game when you start with a runner on second base. I mean, however, it's started a new strategy as far as, do you play for 2 runs? Do you, if you're their away team, do you just try to bunt? How do you play? I mean, I know there's a lot of bunting in baseball these days, but I know they've already said that they're not going to bring this back for next season. Right. I think that's probably the right call, but I think sometimes baseball needs to be a little bit more flexible with some of its rules.
Vince, second base guy, is that a folly?
I love it. I love the guy on second base. I'm one of the few that do, but I like what Graham was saying. Why not change it up to 10th? You're still playing regular ball, 11, gradually move people forward and trying to get the game over with, but give them an opportunity at least in the 10th to finish it out. I think in the way that baseball is played today, the way people use their bullpens, once you get into the 10th, 11th, 12th inning, now all of a sudden you've wrecked your whole week of how you're going to pitch the rest of the week. And guys are getting sent down and called up because they got to have fresh arms and things like that. So the game needs to get done faster as opposed to longer, which is why I like the guy at second. And to me, I like offense. So I like to see it go, get a guy running the bases and having that strategy, that extra strategy put into it of bunting and moving the guy to third or, where it goes from there. So I like it. I've got no issue with it.
Howard?
I don't think there's an issue with it. I think it's fine as is, honestly. Nothing really else,
Well, all right. So we're going to move on. The next subject we're going to talk about is the Immaculate Inning, which before last week, I always thought the Immaculate Inning was 3 pitches and 3 outs. But apparently that's not the case. It's 3 strikeouts and 9 pitches, which Chris Sale did accomplish last week. So I'm going to start with you, Howard, on this one. Is that skill or luck?
I'm going to go a combo of both. And here's why. I mean, yeah, these guys are throwing 98, 99. But if a fastball is 99 straight down the middle, guy can hit it out of the park. You need to be able to mix in your pitches. You need to be all your pitches need to be on. There was a guy in the Yankees who did it this year. I want to say it was Kluber, but I don't think it was Kluber. There was someone on the Yankees who did it this year. Maybe it was Montgomery. I don't remember. But no, I think it's a combo of both. I mean, luck, yeah, but it's like you need to be able to pitch to a point where the guys are going to either the ump zone is going to be incredibly large and you cannot hit your spots, or your pitches need to be accurate where the guys are swinging and missing. So I definitely think it's a combo of both, honestly.
So, Graham, do you agree?
I do agree, but I would say it's probably like a 80-20 split or something like that. I have a hard time discrediting a pitcher who gets 3 strikeouts like that. I mean, in some ways, getting 3 outs on 3 pitches, like you said, is a lot more efficient. I'm sure managers would prefer that. But I know it's unlucky if you get 3 strikeouts and the catcher can't squeeze it. It gets behind him. He gets to first base. I know there's been 4 strikeouts very, very rarely. So I could definitely say that's unlucky. I'd say it's mostly skill. You might throw a pitch right down the middle and the guy just misses it. So that would probably be good luck. But I'd say it's mostly skill. There's a reason why it doesn't happen that often. These guys are trying to hit it. But there's probably an element of luck in there as well.
Vince?
Well, I'm going to go mainly skill. I'm looking right now to see the pitch chart of where the balls were when he pitched. And there was only one, I'm looking real quick. There was only one that was out of the strike zone that was called a strike, and that was on the first batter. The rest of them were all swinging or foul or in the strike zone. So at first I was going to be the pessimist and say, oh, bad officiating helped. But only one bad call, and it was a close one anyhow. So needless to say, I'm going to go heavily skill on this one. Chris Sale, he's been faking the injury to get healthy and get rested. And no, he's not faking it. But you know what? Chris Sale has been one of the better pitchers in the league in recent years. And so he obviously has the ability to come in and throw. And I'm surprised, honestly, we don't see more of those, especially in today's swing at everything mentality, that we don't see more of it. But I say skill.
All right. I agree with that. And trivia time, because it was the third time that Chris Sale had accomplished that in his career, which ties for the all-time record. And so does anybody know who the other pitcher was that retired 3 strikeouts on 9 pitches 3 times in his career? Howard?
No idea.
Graham?
I want to say Greg Maddux, but I don't know if that's right.
That would not be correct.
Okay.
Vince?
Sandy Koufax.
Sandy Koufax is the correct answer.
Is it really?
It
He
is
cheated.
the correct answer. Absolutely.
He cheated.
So Vince is bringing on the power today.
Well done.
So
I was just reading
Sale.
an article about Chris Sale, and I saw the name, so I did cheat.
All right, so we're going to move on to another subject, and this subject just erupted yesterday, and we're talking about the whole Javi Baez and the Boo Bird scenario that happened in New York yesterday. And I know Vince has some pretty he's going to bring on the power with this, so we're going to go to you first, Vince, to get your thoughts on it.
All right, so I had a conversation on Twitter today with someone, Eric Katz from Sports Team News. He's a writer here at Belly Up as well. Okay. And so my conversation was basically this. He said, he's pathetic and he's sure lucky he's not a Yankee and the fans would have just killed him and all this kind of stuff. Well, okay, if you go back to when Javi Baez was traded to the Mets, he said, I want to sign back with the Cubs at the end of the year. I want to go back to Chicago. That's where I want to be. So he could care less if the people in New York like him or not. And so when you have a person in that situation, when they get frustrated with fans, they're going to do whatever they want because they don't care what the fans think. And they're tired of fair weather fans. And I can understand that being very discouraging. You got guys who are cheering you one play in one inning, and then the next inning they're booing you. And the mentality of, hey, I'm going to boo the fans because they're cheering for me now, but they weren't cheering for me before. And, I don't have a problem with it. The Mets came out and said, we're not going to accept this and all that kind of nonsense. Yeah. Well, let's at least try to get the fans to, give a little effort here to be a fan and not just a fair weather fan. I understand fans get frustrated and they boo. I mean, you go to Philadelphia, that happens heavily in Philadelphia. It happens in a lot of places. But in my opinion, the ownership should have backed Javi Baez in this situation and said, listen, we understand why he's disappointed. We may not agree with how he's doing it and what's showing it, but we understand why, because it is frustrating because you fair weather fans are lazy and you can't just stick with us when the good times and the bad times and those kinds of things from there. So in my opinion, Javi Baez and the Mets players should continue to do the thumbs down and continue to point out the hypocrisy of the fans. And fans are going to be fans, right? It is what it is. But you should allow the players to be real people too. Players are people too, so let them be real people. And again, Javi Baez, he doesn't want to resign in New York. He doesn't want to play in New York. And whether or not he'll go back to Chicago, I don't know. But he's not going to stay in New York, and that's why he doesn't care what anybody else thinks.
There's rumors out there that apparently Baez and the Cubs were close to having like $150 million extension.
Yeah.
So I'm going to piggyback on what Vince was saying, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So Howard, you're in the New York area, so weigh in on this.
It's been fun. Let's just put it that way. Twitter's been fun to watch. I am friends with a lot of Met fans. And they all like, Baez is a jerk. Why would he do that? We're the ones who, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, the Mets haven't exactly been, what's the word I'm looking for?
Good.
Good. They haven't been great. I mean, they're always, up until Steve Cohen bought the Mets, what did the Wilpons do to support this team? There's somehow the things is, the Mets are gonna Mets. That's a saying. They're gonna do something stupid. So one thing that a good friend of mine brought up today, and I didn't think about it like this. This brings me back to 4 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever Todd Frazier was on the Yankees. And there was this Met fan who basically was dubbed the thumb down guy. Because I guess the Yankees he didn't like Todd Frazier or whatever. And ever since then, the Yankees started doing the thumbs down. Not against the fans, not against anybody. It was a sign of unison. It was, hey, we're doing good. You got to hit thumbs down. So I didn't think of it like that. But I think that if Baez didn't come out and said, oh, well, the fans are booing us, we're going to give them thumbs down, this would have been blown over. And that's what people are saying. I think the fact that Alderson came out with a statement, said, oh, we're going to bring this up, we don't tolerate this, that just made it worse. Like, you're a president of the team should not have to come out, make I don't know if you guys saw it, a statement like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're gonna have a meeting. Come on, these are baseball players.
I want a microphone in that meeting. I want to see how that conversation goes.
I think it's being blown out of proportion. I think that it's I don't think it's being blown out of proportion. I think Baez is just somebody who just speaks his mind. He's always spoken his mind. He's gonna do what he wants.
Yeah,
so Graham,
I think.
You want to weigh in?
Yeah, I think when he got traded there and he made that comment about possibly resigning with Chicago, it immediately rubbed the Mets fans the wrong way, and they were already waiting till he started getting into a streak or into a bad slump. So I think he didn't do himself any favors by doing that, and that's. I don't know why he said that. I mean, that's fine. You want to, you want to resign with Chicago or do whatever you want to do. I know he's an outspoken guy. He's not really a quiet guy on the field or off the field. But I understand why the fans are booing him. Not just him, but the team's been lousy. Let's not forget, they were a first place team for 3 months or even beyond that into July. They've gone all the way down to fourth. They can't seem to get anything going. This has been a long, frustrated fan base going back all the way back probably to the 80s, really, if you think about it. So I get it. I don't love the thumbs down. I kind of wish they could have come up with something a bit more creative, something like this, or some kind of a hex or something secret that only the players knew about. That way there wasn't this frustration amongst the fan base. And I get the whole fair weather fan you guys are talking about, but I mean, if I'm a Mets fan, I don't like this either, and I mean like a diehard Mets fan watching every game type of fan. I don't like this either. And then I heard Lindor saying something about it either as well, and like he's signed long term, so I don't want a guy who they've committed a lot of money and time to, who seems like maybe his best years are already behind him, buying into that sort of thing. I'd rather them keep it a little bit more discreet. If they could have a symbol, but it doesn't have to be, such an obvious kind of F you to the fans, because
they're the ones paying your
that
salary.
creates a lot of it creates a lot of contentious feelings, and that's already a place that doesn't have a lot of patience, as I'm sure Howard can attest to.
Yeah.
So. One of the things is a couple things. Well, with Baez, when he said that originally about going back to the Cubs, possibly, I looked at it. Again, I'm not a Mets fan, so that might have some into it too. But I looked at it as, hey, I applaud his loyalty to a team that he won a World Series on, or went to the World Series, and where he was, invested into the community. And even though they were really bad this year, he wasn't happy to get off of that. And I kind of applauded that. And the way I look at it, where players are on these rentals, they're specifically getting moved to this team for that year to win in the playoffs and so on and so forth. I even as a fan of my teams, when we get a rental, I understand, hey, this guy is just here to help us win now. And he might not re-sign with us and those kinds of things. You look at Kawhi in Toronto a couple of years ago. I mean, Toronto fans were hopeful that he would stay, but they also understood there's a good chance he's not staying.
Who is that?
And they loved Kawhi Leonard in basketball.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I was like, what are you talking about?
They got behind him and supported him, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, we're going to try to win this year. We're going to support him. But then you look at the Mets. Not only are they having issues winning on the field, off the field, they've had issues even this year with their draft pick, their first-round draft pick. They couldn't figure out how to get them signed. So I think there might be a lot of frustration in that locker room, and it might go far beyond what we can see or hear or know.
So, and based on and you're not wrong, because I mean, I saw a clip yesterday, and I heard about this, that Baez struck out on like a 58-foot curveball or something a couple weeks ago. And I saw the clip yesterday. It wasn't even close to what he swung at. So it's more like I was blown away. Like it's more like, now that these comments are out there, now that he came out yesterday, it's like, does he even care to play right now? It's like he's swinging, he's free swinging. It's like he's just like he's going to play the game because he knows unfortunately he's going to get paid by whatever team he's going to, because he has no desire to be in the Mets.
Well, he might be losing some millions of dollars, though, if other teams, if I'm a general manager, I see that and I say, I don't want to sign this guy. I'd rather sign Corey Seager or another guy, Trevor Story, or someone else.
And the whole reason the Mets got him is because Lindor wanted him. Like, why are you trying to make Lindor happy when Lindor's locked up for 13 years?
7,000 years,
yeah.
Like, why are you trying to make this guy happy if he's locked up? And I'm pretty sure Lindor has a no trade clause. And I don't know if he has any opt out clauses.
Of course he does.
But it's not like football where you can hold out and get a bigger contract. Football. I'm going to hold out for 3 years. I'm going to hold out and get an extension. Baseball is not like that. Where you sign a contract, you're expected to play.
And I want to be clear too. It's okay as a fan if you boo your team. But you can't just flip the switch back and forth.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You've got to choose.
I agree with that, Vince.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been in stadiums where the team has done horrible and they do something good and it's a sarcastic cheer. And everybody knows it's a sarcastic cheer.
Bronx cheer,
But there are others who they forget that they just booed this guy the last time he was up the bat.
Well, that's what's going on with the Yankees right now. The Yankees won 13 straight, right? They're playing great ball.
Yep.
Stan's been hitting the ball. Everyone's been riding Stan this whole season. He's hitting the ball now, and all of a sudden these Yankee groups on Twitter, they lost 2 games in a row. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, here we go again." They just came off a third. I mean, granted, it's mind-boggling. They just came, and that's I think that's the. I mean, all teams have that issue. Don't get me wrong.
Best commercial I've seen in a long time.
Oh, is that Judge commercial? Oh my, it's so good. It's so good.
That's good. Have you guys seen it?
I'm up here in Canada. I don't think I saw that.
Oh man, they got the telephones. Aaron Judge is talking to Stanton. Stanton says, "Man, you're ripping it. How are you doing it?" Judge tells them, but then it's a cell phone commercial. So they're saying, "This is what happened if you don't have this kind of service." So it's cracking, and it basically says, "Go Little League
and smash homers
and smash the kids."
And then you see Stan just hitting a bomb,
crush Little League,
and then he goes to third base, and because the third baseman's standing on third, he goes, "You're not supposed to be standing here." He picks up the kid and moves him and runs. Look up T-Mobile, Giancarlo Stanton. It's absolutely
free shout out T-Mobile.
Yeah,
all right.
To come sponsor the program.
Hey, T-Mobile. Money.
Real quick on a guy like Stanton, though, like I think a lot of fans, they hold things in their back pocket. Like, man, he hasn't played much. We gave him $200 million. He's barely played the last 3 years. So they'll keep that in their back pocket and they'll wait till he has a slump, or even if he's been playing great, as soon as he strikes out a few times, like, he never plays, and they'll remember that sort of thing, which I think is maybe not the same thing as booing, but they'll just kind of remember this guy hasn't been very durable.
They do.
Or
they do.
They boo too. Yeah.
I'm sure you know
about it. And
I'm a big Yankee fan.
Kevin, that's the difference between small markets and large markets oftentimes, because you look at Milwaukee, Christian Yelich most of this season has not done much of anything.
No.
But every time he walks up to the plate, the crowd cheers for him every time. If he strikes out, they don't cheer, but they don't boo either. And then when he does something good, they're there to pick him up. That's what they're there to do. And these
I've
large,
seen that, Vince, because I went to a game in Milwaukee a couple years ago. I saw that with my own eyes. So
that's
the
what
Brewer
small
fans
markets.
are,
Small markets support their players no matter what. In most cases, larger markets are used to winning because they have all the money, and so they don't support the players; they only support the outcome. And I think that's where you see the difference. That's why I like small market teams.
I want to go on something real quick. And then, Kevin, I apologize. I saw something on Twitter the other day. Some guy proclaimed there should be a salary cap in baseball.
I've heard that so many times. And, we could wait another episode.
No, right. But this is where the guy's going with it. He goes, there should be a salary cap, and the team has to spend a minimum of $150 million a year. Would that make everything change from small market from small market to large market? Would that make a difference in terms of the billing?
Well,
I mean, if you have a salary cap, you're going to have a floor that you got to get to no matter what. I don't think 150 million is that number, but
I thought it was 100.
I heard.
I saw 100.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw 150.
Like I said, we could send a whole episode discussing that.
Oh yeah.
And just like the weigh in, I think we've covered this pretty well. But as far as gestures go, a thumbs down is about as benign a gesture as you could possibly get. And I think the whole thing was blown completely out of proportion. So that's
we're not allowed to do horns down for Texas. We're not allowed to do L's down for Louisville. We're not allowed to do thumbs down for the New York fans. We're getting soft, Kevin.
Well, yeah. So, all right. So let's move on to the, because we're at the end of August, and September is fast approaching, and the pennant races are all heating up. And so, Graham, out of the teams that are currently out of the playoff,
okay,
which two would you think would be the most likely to get back and actually make the playoff?
There's a team that I've really been liking over the last few months, and it might surprise you guys, but they're a lot of fun, and they've actually been playing over 500 since that period of time. Colorado Rockies. These guys are almost unbeatable at home. They win about 66% of their games at home. I know they only win about 24% of their games on the road, but I got a lot of guys I really like on that team. CJ Cron is having a career season. I really like Ryan Mcmahon. I thought he should have made the All-Star game. Some of their pitchers have really been doing a lot better than you might think. Kyle Freeland, Herman Marquez did make the All-Star team for their team. John Gray as well. I just think they have a lot of really good players coming up. They have another guy, Joe, who's been just kind of called up the last little while, but he's already hit 8 home runs. He's only got about 150 at bats. So, this is a team that was 21-34 at the end of May, and they're only 10 games below 500 now. So they played above 500 in that period of time. People thought they were going to lose over 100 games, which I thought was crazy. I know they're probably going to lose Story, but I don't think this is a team that's I think they're actually going to be decent in the next couple of years rather than rebuilding. A lot of people didn't like what they did with Arenado, which I don't think they had much of a choice with. But if you've been paying attention, this team's been competitive. They just beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3. So this is a team
we don't need to talk about
you don't want to play.
You don't need to talk about that.
Okay, you don't want to play them towards the end of your season though, because they seem like prime spoilers to me.
Vince, who are your two teams that get back in the playoff race?
Well, it's funny. You look around at what's going on in both conferences or both leagues, excuse me. San Diego is still out. I just cannot believe Cincinnati is going to lock up a wild card spot. On the other side, you've got a couple teams, Oakland and Seattle and Toronto, honestly. Graham could talk better about Toronto, but all of those teams are within reach with the final month to go. At this point, you're looking at schedules, who's playing who. Cincinnati's got a ridiculously easy schedule moving forward.
So do the Rays. Rays is very easy, too.
Yeah, but they're already in, so
we got to give them their due. Yeah.
They're due? In the
Rays. Well, hold on. Yeah. They're due. They make the playoffs the last 3 years. They're due. I hate the Rays. So
I just think a lot of people don't give them any respect.
I agree there.
They've got a low payroll, blah, blah, blah. They've got rookies that are ready to play. They might win it all this year.
I'm a Yankee fan, and the Rays destroy us. That's why I said it.
Okay, well, I got to say, as a Jays fan, I like them more than the Yankees or the Reds.
I would expect you to.
I'm with you, Brandon. Unfortunately for you. Howard. So
I might have misunderstood the question, Kevin.
I
To
think
be
you
clear,
did, because I'm looking for two teams that are currently out of the playoff race that can find their way back in it
This year.
Yeah. Okay.
year.
Yeah. I think
this
Rockies
year.
have been decent in the last couple of years, but yeah,
The
I
Rockies
think
aren't winning anything this year. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Jays' chances. They got to really go on a hot streak, though. They got Springer back tonight, actually. But they got some 7 games against Minnesota. They got some games against Baltimore, so they got to take advantage of some of that easy part of their schedule. But they got to beat the Yankees. They got to beat the Rays, things like that as well. National League, maybe St. Louis could make a run. But they really have been consistently, around 500, pretty inconsistent all year. So I find that's pretty unlikely. I'd like to give some love to Tyler O'Neill, well-known Canadian, who's having a really good season for them as well. But I'd probably go with those two teams, maybe Philadelphia, but I don't love their pitching.
No.
Graham, how good would Toronto be if they still had Rowdy Tellez, right? I mean, Rowdy Tellez is a stud.
Yeah, I mean, they had to trade him, though, because he's the type of guy that needs the consistent at-bats, and I still love what we got in that deal. I mean, or I might get I'm thinking about I might be getting mixed up. Who did we get back?
I think you just got like a player to be named later or something. I don't think you got much.
No, I'm thinking Trevor Richards, but that was the other
free lunch or something like that.
We
could
got
have been bullpen. It would have been bullpen.
We got some bullpen help. Sorry, I'm kind of blanking on that. It was the first of many trades they've made. But I don't really think Tellez is a difference maker, to be honest. I love the guy, and I know he's doing some great things for Milwaukee. But hitting's not the problem for Toronto. Well, it has been lately, but it's it's putting it all together. Their run differential's great, but they've lost a lot of 1-run games, and their bullpen hasn't been clutch. So it might not be the year for them, but it's a good building year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So Howard, who are your two teams?
Baltimore, Texas, and Arizona and Pittsburgh.
Okay, I don't think you understood the question.
We're not talking about a race to the bottom. Which Baltimore's winning that, by the way?
No, I definitely think Oakland. I think
Oakland is my team too.
I think Oakland, seeing them over the last 4 games, I'm granted such a small sample size. I think if they get hot, they're going to be really good. I think they're scrappy. Losing Liriano for the rest of this year, because he's not playoff eligible now, hurts. Losing Bassett hurts, but they've got guys who are stepping up. Definitely, I think Oakland could be there. Toronto, I think if they get hot. Seattle, possibly. I think that that could be between them and Oakland possible. In the West, I think San Diego's got a chance. I hate to say this, and I'm probably going to get some slack. I feel if the Mets go on a streak and they get DeGrom back, I think there's a small chance. I don't think so. There's a small, very, very small. I think DeGrom's done for the year, personally. I said small, but no, I think the NL, Dodgers, San Diego for a wild card, that would be killer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would. But San Diego, because that's my pick as well. Because I'm not a believer in the Cardinals, and I'd like to be a believer, but I'm just not. So if the team's going to climb back in at San Diego, but they've got to get it together soon. And Oakland is my other team. So those are my two teams right there.
The AL, Kevin, would you say the AL is more open than the NL right now? Because in my opinion, Cincinnati or San Diego is the last two in the NL.
That's it.
And the AL's got a couple
maybe
teams.
Philadelphia, because all of us were believers in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And they just haven't done it. So So Oakland, the AL is because you got Oakland and you got Toronto still in it, and
Seattle's still in there too.
And Seattle.
Yeah,
and
don't write Seattle off.
Seattle is the team that needs it more than any other team in the history of sports, maybe, because they haven't made the playoffs in 20 years.
20-year drought. Every time I see them, and it's not a lot, I'm very impressed with this team. because they're the opposite of the Jays. They have a lousy run differential, but they find a way to win games. And, JP Crawford, some of the different players they have, Ty France. I think Scott Servais has done a great job with this team, managing them as well. They might win 87 or 88 games and fall short, but you have to think that's a step in the right direction if you're a fan of the Mariners.
All right. So, Graham, I'm going to ask this to you. Who are the players that need to step up right now to really get their teams steaming towards the playoffs? Do you have anybody?
Yeah, I wrote down quite a few here, actually. For the Red Sox, I'd say JD Martinez. I think he goes as they go. I think he's the leader of that team. I mean, Bogarts and Devers are their two other constants offensively. But I really think he's a guy who needs to step it up. I wrote down Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for the Blue Jays. He has been in a bit of a slump. He did go deep tonight for number 37, but he has gone through a bit of a drought as far as that's concerned. I said Matt Chapman for the A's. He's had a miserable year. He was known as one of the best third basemen in baseball. He still is, maybe defensively, but he's had a rough year with the bat. So I think if he can get hot and maybe hit some bombs, that would really help the A's. I said Freddy Freeman for the Braves. He's their leader. He's their MVP last year. I think it's the same thing with him and Martinez with the Red Sox. Like, he goes as they go. If he can get hot, I think they're going to kind of cruise to a NL East championship. I put Yelich for the Brewers. I guess I don't have to say everyone I wrote down here, but I have Luis Castillo for the Reds. I think he could be a really effective starter, but he's very inconsistent. He's been a little bit better lately. For the Padres, I put Eric Hosmer. He's got World Series experience, but he's been a disappointment in my opinion since he signed that big contract. And Cody Bellinger. I mean, this guy's hitting under 200 for the Dodgers. It seems like he's had such a weird career. He's won Rookie of the Year. He set the record for home runs, which was since been broken. And he's won an MVP, but he's also had a couple of not so great years. He's got that uppercut swing that leads to a lot of strikeouts. Yeah. So, I mean, if he could get hot, that would really help them. I mean, I know that they've got a stacked roster, but I think he's a big part of that team still. And he could really help them kind of maybe repeat as World Series champions if he can get his game right.
So, Vince, who do you have?
I'm going to start with the A's. Elvis Andrus, he's been poor as of late. And then also Mark Canha there in the outfield. He had a decent early season up to mid-season, but he's kind of fell off since coming in here after the All-Star break. Then the other one I've got is the Cincinnati Reds pitchers. Castillo already mentioned there. Sonny Gray and Wade Miley have both been pitching rather good here as of late. They've got, in the last month, both of them are under 3 in the ERAs, but Castillo is at 4.6 just in the last month. So that's got to get better. Malley's got to get a little better as well. And then the bullpen for Cincinnati. You're talking about making the playoffs because San Diego has faltered and they've slipped. Cincinnati's holding on tight to that last spot, but their bullpen is so bad. So Amir Garrett, I mean, the Reds will lead going into the 8th inning, and you know they're going to lose the lead because their bullpen's really, really bad. So I look at the Reds pitching and Oakland's offense as kind of the people to watch. Jed Lowry, Jed Lowry at Oakland as well, second baseman. He has moments where he's really good, and then other moments where he's not dependable. So those are the kind of the two areas I'm looking at.
Howard?
Javi Baez.
Javi Baez, come on down.
No, I think JD Martinez, definitely. The Red Sox have been slacking lately. I think, a guy who needs to keep on going, not necessarily step up, keep going, is Aaron Judge. She's been killing it all year. He needs to keep going. I think Giancarlo needs to keep going. They're pitching.
How about Corey Kluber?
He pitches tonight against
the Eagles. He pitches tonight.
We'll see what's up with him tonight.
They're doing Kluber and Haney tonight.
Haney needs to get better.
He has been. He has been better. I will give him that.
Better than what?
He threw 7 innings, gave up 1 run a couple weeks ago, and then he went 6 innings, gave up 4. That's good for him.
Yeah, his last 2 starts weren't horrible. You're right.
No, I think the Yankees bullpen needs to step up big time because they just keep blowing games.
Yeah.
In the National League, I think the Dodgers pitching needs to step up. I mean, granted, you got Scherzer.
Well, they need pitchers to be able to step up because they've got
Yeah.
nobody, But Power's not coming to the door, and Clayton Kershaw not coming to the door right now.
If Power comes to the door, call the police.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, he's a wanted man.
Apparently.
So, some players that I have is I believe the Oakland starters, their starting pitching needs to step up, specifically Sean Manaea, because he pitched against the Yankees the other day and looked terrible. He has not pitched well at all in the second half. And because Chris Bassett has said maybe he plans on making a comeback, which would be miraculous, seeing as how he took a 100-mile-an-hour, ball right to his face.
Yeah.
But if you're Oakland, you cannot plan on that. So the pitchers need to step up. Montez looked pretty good yesterday, but their starters need to step up. And I think that Chris Sale, we talked about him a minute ago, appeared on the for Boston at just the right time. If he pitches the way he's capable of pitching, that's huge for Boston. And Kevin Gausman of San Francisco, the all-star pitcher, he pitched against Atlanta, looked pretty decent. He needs to be the all-star player that he was in the first half for the Giants. And the last player I want to mention, I'm just going to ask this question. I'm going to talk about Chris Bryant of the Giants and ask, is he a National League MVP candidate? Graham, what would you say to that?
I definitely think he's definitely in the mix. I think he's a candidate. I'm not sure if a player who's been traded has ever won it. We'd have to kind of check on that, but I can't remember that ever happening. It's a very interesting race because I think a lot of people kind of penciled in Tatis Jr. He's missed quite a few games. I think Freeman has heated up and has put himself in the mix. I think Votto is squarely in the mix, certainly. A lot of people think Bryce Harper has a shot too. He's had kind of a weird year statistically. And I've even heard a bit of a dark horse here, Brandon Crawford, who plays on the same team, obviously, as Chris Bryant. I think it's not going to be a slam dunk in the National League. I think it's going to be a lot of different votes. Obviously, DeGrom was in the mix there too, but he's missed too much time as well. So I think he's a candidate, probably top 5. I don't know if he'll end up winning it though.
If you look at the odds right now for NL MVP, it goes Tatis, Muncy, Freeman, Harper, Votto, Trey Turner, Austin Riley.
Well, he's not even on the list.
Yeah.
The reason why I mentioned this, that he's an MVP candidate, because going into the weekend, the Giants were unbeaten when he hits a home run. So he hit, and he's been hitting big time for them. So he hits the ball out, the Giants win. So he's a guy that I was just going to put out there because he's doing it for the Giants, the best team right now in baseball.
Yeah, I think he really legitimized them. I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, Tommy La Stella and Lamonte Ward and Wade and all these guys. Like, who are these guys?" But I think when they got Chris Bryant, you mentioned Gausman. He's had a great year.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it doesn't really matter who's on the team. They got a really good manager, and they just find ways to win. So they can definitely run the table. I believe in this team strongly.
Well, we're going to find out some things about the Giants and the Brewers because, as you know, Vince, they're getting ready to get it on. This a 3-game series between them, and the Braves and the Dodgers are getting ready to get it on. So we've got some baseball that you need to tune into out there. So
I saw something today about San Francisco. The next 5 pitchers they face are 5 of the top NL pitchers out there. So it's not going to be an easy run for the Giants in the rest of the regular season because they got a tough schedule coming up, tough pitchers at their head. I mean, they're facing Burns tonight. They got Woodruff tomorrow. So, it's definitely not going to be an easy end of the season for them. If they can survive that, then the playoffs are definitely – I mean, they seem to have a team deep enough to make a good run here in the playoffs.
All right. So, Graham, we're going to switch over to our fantasy discussion. So,
right.
Let us know what you're up to and where we can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Bus Wallace. I'm always there. Well, not always there. I post my articles there, bellyupsports.com. I got one coming up in the next couple days about some young Jays to look out for. It might not be their year this season, but there's some guys in the organization that have really shown themselves well this year to look out for soon. Yeah, look out for me there. Post a comment, whatever. Please be nice. Also, Instagram, Bus Wallace, all lowercase. On Twitter would be B and W would be capitalized. So,
all right. So, Graham, it's always a pleasure to have you on board, and you brought the power.
Oh, so great to be with you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Graham.
Okay,
right, you have a great night.
All right, see ya.
All right, so this is a fantasy baseball show after all. So we're going to switch over to what are some players that you would see as being a potential add to your team, Vince.
So tonight I'm going a little different for you, Kevin. Instead of giving you actual names, I'm going to give you advice. And we're at that point in the fantasy season now. We've got 1 week left of the regular season.
And then the playoffs come next Monday.
Yeah. So you got to be looking at what you need to win your matchup at this point. So instead of looking for players, you got to look at the stat lines. You got to figure out who's doing what in the last week or in the last 2 weeks, who's on fire. And you got to be wise about who you drop, but knowing, especially when you get in the playoffs, hey, if I'm going to lose, it doesn't matter if this guy's on my team. So I got to get rid of him and get someone else, whatever it may be. I'll give you 3 names to watch for, and it's just because it's what I know the most about. But the 3 Brewer pitchers, Adrian Hauser, Eric Lauer, and then Aaron Ashby. And Aaron Ashby, the Brewers have not lost a game that Aaron Ashby
Andy Ashby's son?
I don't know. It's a good question. It may be.
I don't know the answer to that either. I wondered that when I saw his name, to be honest with you, when I saw Ashby was pitching for the Brewers.
Those are the kind of guys, a team that's doing well, a team whose offense is clicking. You get those pitchers, and we've talked about it before. If they're playing the Cubs, you want to pick that player up, and you can have some success to end out your season. I've won, I know we're talking about our teams later, I've won 4 straight in a league that I've struggled in all year, and it's been less dropping and picking up and more watching the matchups and playing the matchups.
He is the nephew of Andy Ashby.
There you go. So that's my thoughts on players and pickups.
All right. So, Howard, I know that you're not in the adding mood.
No.
It stands right now. Would that be a correct statement?
Yep. I am kaput.
All right. So the next segment might be more your style, but a couple players I want to put out there as a potential add is Patrick Wisdom has to go to the head of the line.
If he's available.
2 home runs in 2 straight games, and he has. We talked about first base, and it needs to be a player that stands out at first. Well, Patrick Wisdom has stood out.
Don't only add Patrick Wisdom, put him in your lineup. Make sure he's there.
Put him in the lineup. That's right. 5 home runs in 4 games. And, the sad part about it, Vince, is I actually added him last week, but then I moved on from him too soon. Yeah. So, sometimes things don't work out. But, add him. Another player that we talked about how the Mets have struggled, but a player that I do like on their team is Jonathan Villar because of his versatility. He had 8 hits last week. So, Baez and all that can get booed all they want to. Villar gets, he shows up at the field and he hits the ball. And one last player I'm going to mention as a potential add, he pitches against the Astros, which is about as tough as it comes. I'm talking about Chris Flexon. Because he's 11-5 with 3.54 ERA, and he's available in my league. So,
What?
Yeah,
I've had Flexon. I've had Flexon on my roster for I think 2 months now.
Okay. So, but if he pitches well against Houston and he's available in your league, go get him.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to move on to some drops, and this just happens to come, very conveniently because I just posted an article on drops, which I focused on pitchers.
Okay.
And the article, the topic of the article was don't let these pitchers derail your playoff push. So go to that, go to the Belly Up Fantasy site right now, and you can find out what those pitchers. I'm not going to talk about them here. That's in my article. But Vince, who are some drops that you think out there that's not helping anybody?
Well, you talked about adding Patrick Wisdom from the Cubs, a Cubs player who a lot of people jumped on is Rafael Ortega. You got to get rid of him. He has dropped back down to what you would expect out of a Cub right now. So that's one guy to watch. We talked about Jed Lowry already. He's a guy that's really struggled. He was giving you some good stats here and there, but he's not doing it now in that playoff push. Jed Lowry's a guy you can replace him with somebody more effective than what he's been right now. And it seems like the catchers, man, just as a whole, the catchers have really been struggling.
Yep. So Howard, who would you have that you should say flush him?
Javi Baez.
You know what? Javi Baez is, wall to wall on the show. So if you're watching the show, Javi, you're in the big time.
Open invite to Javi Baez to come on the show.
Come on, yeah. If you want to get on the show and talk to us, we will absolutely let you do that.
We'll make special accommodations for you.
That's
no
right.
fans allowed.
If there's a special drink that that you like or something, just let us know what that is, and we'll make it happen.
To drop, I haven't really seen anyone dropping. I have seen people been, prepping for the playoffs in my league, so it's more like they pick up a guy, drop a guy. Like someone had picked up Andrew Velasquez. Don't know why. I mean, granted, he was playing lights out for 2 days, but someone just dropped him yesterday. I don't really know. I think it's more like Vince said, it's more stats. If you're not planning on keeping a guy, drop him. Up to this point in the season, it ain't gonna do you any problem.
So a couple players that I have is that goes at the top of the list is Anthony Stanitor.
Santander on the Orioles.
Santander, okay. So he had 3 hits earlier in the week, but then after that he went 1 for 13.
Man,
and as an outfielder, you got to have outfielders that hit the ball, and he's just not doing it.
Santander was so good last year.
He was. Absolutely.
This year, man, he's just been disappointing.
You could probably say that about everybody on the Baltimore Orioles roster.
Almost, yeah. Almost.
And so the second player is Dylan Moore of Seattle. And he had 1 hit last week. 1.
Mm-hmm.
And he's hit 174. You don't need that on your team. And the last guy I'm going to talk about is, I'm going to try and pronounce this the best I can, Aladimas Diaz.
Yeah, I know who he is. Guy the short.
He's actually played pretty well, but he got pushed to his utility role now that Bregman is back on the team. So he's not going to be in the lineup nearly as much as he was. And there has to be a player out there that will be in the lineup that can help you more than him. So that's what I have for my drops. Anybody out there, Vince, that you're thinking, well, I don't know if I'm going to hold on to him to see, maybe he gets it together.
I'm really holding on to everybody right now. Again, coming down this stretch, and again, I'm on a four-week win streak, so that helps as well. Guys that have been okay that I'm kind of still maybe not everybody's holding on to. A lot of people dropped Willy Adames this week with his injury. I was really surprised to see his percentage drop. He went down into the 50 percentile. Wow. I was really surprised by that. He's at 66% right now owned, which shocked me. So that's one guy. Yastrzemski is a guy. He's down below 80% now, owned in most leagues. He's really struggled. And Benintendi's the other guy, really struggled as well here of late. But I'm holding on to all of them and just playing the matchups at this point.
So Howard, I guess with you know, you're not holding anybody, right? Would that
Nope.
be correct?
Correct.
So we're going to look forward to hearing about your team next year, Howard. So we're looking forward to
after
that.
that draft.
My team better be good next year. If not, then I'm just done with fantasy sports.
So a couple holds that I have is I'm going to, you know, we talked about him a little bit earlier. It's Ryan Mcmahon from Colorado. He was 1 for 17 last week, but he's in Chicago, and then they're going to go home this week. So, you know, when they're at home, they're a different animal altogether, all the Rocky hitters. So I'm not going to drop him. And guy we talked about last week, Vince, was Cesar Hernandez. And we said we should drop him. But if you didn't do that, he had hits in 4 or 5 games with home run and 3 runs scored. So if you happen to hold him, continue to do that. And the last guy I'm going to talk about is Kyle Farmer of Cincinnati. He was 0 for 12. He's in an over 12 slump right now, but he plays second, third, and short. But he was swinging the bat pretty well before that, so he's going to have to disappoint me further before I drop him. So let's move on to how are our fantasy teams looking when Ryan Howard? We already pretty much know
11, baby, going for the bottom.
Going for the bottom, and he's in a free fall for the bottom. So Vince, how about you? Said you won 4 in a row. So how are we looking going in the playoffs?
So in that league, it's a relegation league. Bottom 3 at the end of the season get relegated down to a lower talent level. And it's my first year up in the majors in this league. So I'm currently sitting at number 8, which is bottom 3. But we get the consolation bracket in the playoffs. All I got to do is win the first game, and I'm safe. I don't get relegated out. And right now, my team on a 4-week win streak. I felt like I've always had the roster, never put it together. It's all coming together for me at the right time. So I just need to win the first game in the playoffs in 2 weeks here and go from there. But that's all I'm fighting for now is not getting relegated.
That sounds great. And as far as I'm in first. I'm going up against the guy who's first in the other division, so it could be a possible playoff preview in our league. And I don't think it matters really what happens if he beats me. I still have him beat on points and head to head, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. And also I've got Ian Anderson back, and Darvish. You know, we talked about some players that need to push it. Darvish goes to the head of that list. And so we'll see what happens. So I'm looking forward to the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. All right. So that brings us pretty much to a close. And Vince, we know that you're always involved out there big time. So just let us know where you are.
Man, huge week for the podcast, Sports Stove Podcast. We'll be live tomorrow and Thursday at 8 o'clock on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We're talking fantasy football tomorrow night. We're talking college football on Thursday. And then Wednesday morning, we're dropping a podcast only, not live, episode called The Local Hour. It's our first one. We're going to do it every Wednesday, focusing on Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky University sports. So we'll be covering football, of course, right now. And Wednesday's episode that's dropping on Wednesday, we interviewed Terry Bowden, the son of Bobby Bowden, who now coaches at Louisiana Monroe. And we also talked with Walt Wells, who's the head coach at EKU as well. So it's some really good stuff coming. We're really excited about what's ahead for the podcast, adding some new sponsors, all kinds of fun stuff happening. So, anywhere you can find your podcast, you'll find the Sports Stove Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Sports Stove, and that's where I am.
All right. So, Howard, where are you?
In New Jersey. Where else would I be? No, you can find me on Twitter in my Sports Guy 13. Been tweeting some lately, trying to get back into it. It was kind of not tweeting a lot of sports stuff, Rangers, Knicks, anything New York related. No Mets, because Mets are just a dumpster fire right now. anything really. Just like have a good time on Twitter. I think it's a good time. That's it. Yeah.
All right. So as for me, I'm always on Twitter at Kevin62 WILSDA, and I'm pleased to also announce that this show will be featured in the Unhinged Radio Network starting tomorrow at 8 p.m. So we got that to look forward to. And
we better wrap it up. Our hour time slot's up.
That's right. So I'm just going to put this subscribe now, as we're on. This show is on Facebook. It's on Twitter, and it's throughout the land. So subscribe. Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball Show is where you can find this show. And so we, always look. We love our subscribers. So go ahead and do that for us. And you can always find me at the Belly Up.
Belly Up Fantasy.
Belly Up Fantasy site.
There you go.
Absolutely. Like I said, I had an article that just dropped a few hours ago, so it's hot off the press. So check that out. And until next time, we will see you, and everybody out there, have a great night.